All right, today we are diving into something called the growth script. It's this hidden set of rules that's either holding you back or, if you know how to use it, setting you totally free. We're going to figure out how to find that script, and even better, how to rewrite it for success.
You ever wonder about this? Why is it that some people can hit a major setback and just bounce back stronger, while other people face the exact same thing and just quit? It's a really fascinating question, right? And the answer isn't about luck or talent. It's all about this hidden mindset script that's running in the background.
So, before we can even think about changing anything, we first have to find and really understand this invisible force that's pulling the strings. So, that's where we'll start. Section 1, the hidden mindset script. Okay, let me ask you this. Have you ever felt like you're just running in place? You know, you're working hard, you're putting in the hours, but you keep getting the same old results. Well, if that sounds familiar, you might be caught in what some psychologists call a stagnant water story. It's a pretty powerful way to describe that feeling of being stuck.
Now, what's really interesting here is the why. This isn't some kind of character flaw. It's actually a feature of your brain. See, your brain loves to run on autopilot because it saves a ton of energy. But here's the problem. That efficiency can trap you in this endless loop, which means you get the same results over and over and over again. So how do we break out of that loop? Well, it starts by understanding the two fundamental scripts, the two basic programs our minds can run. That brings us to section 2, where we're going to explore this core conflict. Are you living in a fixed cage, or are you growing a garden? This chart just perfectly illustrates the amazing work of researcher Carol Dweck. On the left, you've got the fixed mindset, the cage. This is the belief that your abilities, your intelligence, they're just set in stone. Every mistake feels like a final judgment, like a life sentence. But on the right, you've got the growth mindset, the garden. This is where you see your brain as something you can actually cultivate. Challenges aren't threats anymore, they're basically fertilizer for your own growth.
This shift in perspective is absolutely everything. Think about it like a great piano teacher, right? When a student hits a wrong note, the teacher doesn't freak out. They don't see it as a failure. They see it as a data point, an opportunity to say, okay, let's adjust your hand position a little, or let's work on the timing. That's exactly how the growth mindset learns to treat every single mistake in life.
All right, so we've identified the two mindsets, cage bad, garden good. Got it. But how do we actually move from one to the other? How do we get out of the cage and start tending that garden? Well, that's what section 3 is all about, rewriting your success script. And stick with me, because coming up soon, I'm going to share something called the Marshmallow Secret. It's this simple psychological key that really seems to unlock high achievement. But first things first, we need a practical tool just to get the ball rolling.
You know, one of the biggest traps we all fall into is getting stuck in what's called the deliberative phase. This is just a fancy term for overthinking. It's when you plan endlessly, you focus on every little thing that could go wrong, and eventually you talk yourself right out of even starting. The goal is to push yourself into the implemental phase, the phase of doing.
And the most practical way to do this is a technique called chunking. It's simple. Let's say your goal is to write a 20-page research paper. Staring at a blank document is terrifying, right? So you chunk it down. Chunk 1, just write the outline. Chunk 2, just draft the first paragraph. That's it. When you complete one tiny chunk, your brain releases these positive signals, like a little reward, that builds momentum to tackle the next one. Okay, so we know how to get started, but how do we keep going when things get tough or boring? It's time to move to section 4 and reveal that secret I promised you, the Marshmallow Secret.
This comes from a super famous Stanford study. They brought in a bunch of preschoolers and gave them a choice, a really tough choice. They could have one marshmallow right now, or if they could just wait 15 minutes without eating it, they could have 2 marshmallows later. It was a simple test of an incredibly powerful skill. And that skill is called delayed gratification. And honestly, it is the engine of the growth script. What the researchers found in follow-up studies was incredible. The kids who were able to wait for that second marshmallow went on to have much greater success in pretty much all areas of life. It's this fundamental ability to choose a long-term gain over short-term comfort. And here is why this is so critical. Every time you delay gratification, choosing to work on your project instead of binge watching that show, you're not just using willpower. You are building something so much deeper. You're building self-efficacy. That's the core belief, that deep down confidence that you are the kind of person who can follow through and get things done. All of this, the chunking, the delayed gratification,
It all leads to the most empowering idea of all. You aren't just a character in your life story. You are its editor. And that brings us to our final section. You are the editor. This is a huge concept. You are not your automatic thoughts. You are the awareness behind them, the one who's observing them. And that little bit of separation, that's where all your power lies. It gives you the ability to reappraise any situation, to look at a setback and consciously choose a more empowering way to see it. And this is what that looks like in the real world. Your old script, that fixed mindset, says, I have to be perfect. The growth script says, hey, I'm learning and I'm doing pretty good. The old script says, this is a disaster. The growth script asks, okay, this is an opportunity to figure things out. You see how that simple edit just lowers the pressure? It prevents that burnout and opens the door for you to actually take action. Ultimately, that's what the growth script is. It's a choice. It's the daily decision to believe that you aren't permanently fixed. You are a work in progress. And every single day, you get to pick up the pen and write the next chapter of your story. So the only question left is, who will you choose to become?